right. Curtis is getting ready for vacation. I got a couple things in the can. I'm going to get done. But I decided to get that Dolphins Realtor, a.k.a. Zach, or the other way around, Zach, a.k.a. that Dolphins Realtor, on to talk some Dolphins and some draft. I just think this is an absolutely interesting period for the Dolphins. There's so much unknowns. So we're all just kind of shooting blindly at this target. So let's dig into it. Zach, what do you think is going to happen with this offseason so far? What do you think is going to happen? And we'll obviously dig into free agency and the draft. And we got a new coach, Slowick. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. So you pick,
there is.
You dig into the pile and tell us what you want to talk about there, brother.
Man, I want to talk about all of it.
All right, man. There you go.
I'm ready to burst about it. No, that's my favorite time. Honestly, I love covering the draft.
I know you're the draft guy.
And then, you got other things that are happening, like Bobby Slowick coming in. And, what do you think about that? Do you think that affects play calling?
It depends on why he was really brought here. I've been digging into it's funny because I remember watching some Houston games and I was like, I really don't like this offensive coordinator. And I'm not going to spill the beans because I got a whole podcast I want to talk about it. But I don't like how he handled Stroud. Yeah. I don't, and I think there's a lot of evidence to say he kind of screwed up, and I think that's why he got fired. I still got to check 2023 to see how defenses played him. I don't want to marry the two, but I think it's one way. I think it's almost to the Allen effect. I don't know how to get into it, but yeah, I'm not too. So if he comes in as just a pass game coordinator, that's a good thing. McDaniel trusts him. He's got experience. He's been in OC. So another voice along with Bevel and Smith, whatever. I don't know why, if you got Smith and he's so good, you need this extra voice. It can hurt. But some people are saying maybe he's been brought in because the brass has said that he's going to call the plays. And I think that I don't like that so much. But
I mean, here's the thing, though. How did he call CJ Stroud last year? This year, he tried to kind of reel him in and play him more manageable, more, outside of his game of what made him great, which is running around and making crazy plays. And who would do that? That would be Tua. Tua can't make those crazy plays. So it's like, you never know. Well, I also wanted to say this, and this is completely off topic, but I just learned this. Do you know Mason Taylor, the tight end in the draft? Do you know that his dad is Jason Taylor?
Yeah.
And his mom is Zach Thomas's sister?
Yeah, you didn't know that? They were married for a while.
No. I didn't know that at all. That's like
it was the coolest thing back when, when they were together. I was like, oh man, this is such a great community, he married Zach, but then it was Zach Taylor, Jason Taylor did some crazy stuff and they got divorced. He did the football route. And then I think there was a falling out between Taylor and Thomas. But yeah.
Well, now we know that if we put, tall edge genes together with a short linebacker, we get a tight end.
That's right. Yeah, I know. It's so funny. I don't know. I still a lot of stuff to like about Taylor, his son. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, I like him.
So, but it was such a good time in that way. We struggled and all that, but there was this sense of camaraderie. I mean, you had, the Hall of Fame defensive end and the Hall of Fame linebacker, like best friends, married together. That was such a nice time. And I mean, it fell apart obviously with the relationship, but I enjoyed those days, man. It was, again, it sucked for some reasons, but it was nice. It was nice. I wish we'd get back to that. It's amazing how those times now feel very functional.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
The thing was, one last point is Slowick. I don't think he tried to make it as manageable as, from what I'm seeing early, I think Stroud was blitzed by like 50-something% of the time.
And but how was that different than the year before?
I don't know. I got to check. I got to do the numbers. But if you're getting blitzed that much, I was very surprised to see the screen rate was only 10%.
Mm.
Was it? I don't know. Is it Stroud not processing? They had the off day, even when they lost some guys, they still had enough talent. So is it Stroud unable to process? Did he not set the framework? I've got a loose kind of feeling over it, but if you're getting blitzed 50 something% of the time, I'd expect, especially with a second year guy and some struggles on the offensive line, because his clean time to throw was like 2.69 or 2.6. That's a long time.
Yeah, it's a bunch.
So I got to dig into it more. But I don't know.
It sounds like he's holding the ball.
Yeah. Or, it depends. It's so complicated. That's what football is. Were the route combinations there? Were the calls right there? Were the first down calls there? Because sometimes you can get the first down calls off and now you're off track. There's so much that goes into it. It's really hard to define. I know some people really like Slowick, and he had a great 2023 season. So I don't know. It's going to take a little bit of delving to kind of figure it out, but it's a big piece.
Strange because they started, so we ended the year and they said, well, some things are going to have to change about the front office and stuff like that, but we're not getting rid of anybody. And before that, Mike McDaniel said that if he had somebody that was better than him at play calling, then he would use him. And then all of a sudden they bring in a senior passing coordinator over the passing coordinator, Darren Bevel.
Yeah.
It's very strange. I don't know.
Yeah, you'd figure Bevel's got way more experience. He's won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't he get the control? You know what I'm saying? Why would you need?
Maybe he said he didn't want to.
Maybe. That's possible. It's like, again, there's so many layers. That's why, you hear people come out and they just say something blank statement. Until you see it on the field, it's very difficult to gauge what it's going to be. But it is kind of weird. I mean, you've got McDaniel, you got Smith, you got Slowick, and now you got Bevel.
Yeah.
So I mean, the good news is at least you're going to have so many minds there that if it doesn't pan out, then you've got to A, say these guys can't cut it, but B, likely there's deeper seated issues.
Yeah. Well, they definitely have to go through some hell, I'm sure. This off season is going to be massive for them and especially not just, drafting, free agency, all the things that we love to cover, but what's going on in the building and how they are setting their culture and their precedents for the remainder of what we're going to see in 2025. I couldn't tell you how that's going to look, but I'm sure that it's not going to look the same as last year.
What does that mean? Did you see the yeah, you see Hill tweet where he had relationships with the woman because he had this guy's whack, dude. This guy there's something mentally wrong with this guy. He's out of control
with this.
I understand people have the right to do what they want to do, but by doing what you want to do, it still has tangible effects on who you are and how you operate. It's just chaos. This guy's got chaos in his life. So I don't know. I want Hill gone. I want him gone.
Yeah. That changes everything that we do with motions and everything that's it's really being, called way too often now. I mean, you see that it didn't really do anything for a passing game this year, but everything that he does in this offense, he's a big role. He's a big factor.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to maybe Jalen Waddle takes that position. But honestly, I feel like they're redundant almost. I know Tyreek Hill is obviously a legend, Hall of Famer, but Jalen Waddle, I've seen him without Hill, and he can operate pretty well. So, and then maybe get more physicality because that's what we're really lacking.
You're talking my language.
Dude, I can't take it anymore. Seeing nobody's available, and it's solely because nobody will, get their back broken over the middle or something. It's just they're scared or they're divas. I don't know what it is, but we just don't have. Malik Washington was a nice.
Yeah, it was a good pick.
Yeah.
Thanks to what's his name? The receiver coach we just fired. What's his name? Welker.
That's Welker.
That was
Yeah.
Welker's guy. Welker picked that guy supposedly.
Yeah. I
No,
mean,
he's good.
he
I like
makes
Washington.
sense. I wonder why he got fired though.
That's
Was it
another thing.
was it from the data, or was it because it wasn't working out, or he lost the ear? You know, I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, that's the whole problem. You see, there's other organizations have dysfunction, but we've taken it to another level. There's constantly this fog of war over everything. Basic stuff. It's like very hard to figure out. And anytime you have all this stuff, it just germinates and it grows with inside on the field. And it's perpetually like this year after year after year. So if you look at the offensive line, it wasn't good at all. It was terrible. So why wouldn't you fire Barry? Why is Welker out the door? Like, it was this offensive struggles. He was here since 22 when they had their big seasons. So was he a part of that? Well, it's so crazy. I mean, I don't know.
Somebody has to get fired. They got to fall on the knife.
Yep. That's how the Dolphins do it. Yep. Year after year after year. I hope it ends. I just don't. I want to hope, but I also don't believe it. To me, it's just so ingrained in the culture.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're right. But also, we're not even there yet. We still have to see what they do in free agency and the draft. I mean, these things are really going to tell us their direction, tell us their approachability to the season. So it's going to matter a bunch what happens. Yeah. And it keeps us hopeful.
Yeah. You got to be hopeful, or else what the hell's a sense?
Yeah. I've learned a long time ago that I can say that I want this person, and that person is the best in that position. And Greer doesn't, I don't know who his team is, but man, it's not even like he's terrible at scouting, at least unless it's like an offensive lineman, right? But he has no ability to concern himself with what we need. I don't think he cares. I don't think he operates that way. It's just like, this is the best guy that I think. And it's like, but we have 6 freaking edges, man. Like, what?
Well, I think that all, you see, I walked on. I stopped playing after high school and wanted to live like Jim Morrison for a couple of years. And I was like, man, I love this game, man. I was playing some like pickup games and stuff. So I was a walk on, but the urgency you felt as a walk on, it motivated the heck out of you. And that's what it's all about. Like, I understood not at the moment, but afterwards. And I remember the head coach, Powers, saying, like, going into spring ball. He's like, listen, your time off, start running. And when you're done running, run again and keep on running. When you think you're done, keep on running. Because if you want to make this team, that's the kind of shape you need to be in.
Yeah.
And it was just a constant state of urgency. And I don't think Greer, because he's Teflon, has an urgency. So if there's no urgency, he just stacks talent.
Yeah.
Because if he's not fired now, then there's been no urgency. There's no real urgency.
Well, so what do you think about this? Okay. And I'm sure there are more names that I can't remember. Elijah Higgins. Nope, they went with Julian Hill. Elijah Higgins is balling over there in Arizona. Yep. Jack Driscoll. Okay. We picked Jack Driscoll up in free agency. Looks like the best interior lineman that we have gets cut.
Yeah.
Does pretty damn good over there.
Yeah.
For the year. I mean, it's just like Deshaun Elliott, Drake May. Why do we see these talents and we just can't evaluate them properly to keep them, to retain them? We let them walk, and then they have good years. What's up with Noah Igbenogany? How did he get from what we saw to the Commanders' Noah in an off season?
Yeah.
It's got to be evaluation. It's probably a little bit of scheme fit, but also it's got to be just missing, just not being able to recognize what the talent is,
Well, I think, if you think about it, that urgency, if there's no urgency with the GM, then that urgency, the lack of urgency will filter down. That's why you have like slides where they could slide down the pool table, guys missing practice, walking out early. There's
Yeah.
no way you can function like that. And some of it I think is because Ross has become a pariah and the top people won't come here.
Hmm.
And so it is just a soup of not being serious. And that's my biggest concern is that a lot of fans, they don't really dig deep. And so you could add a hill and be like, well, we're going to win it. That's it. We're going to win it. And then there's like all this stuff underneath that clearly says we got real issues. No, you don't need to talk about it because the Dolphins media department knows how to filter the stuff. They have certain people that either influence, directly or indirectly, and they just roll it out. Narratives like trust in Butch Barry trust. I'm sorry, Liam Eichenberg. I'm sorry, Austin Jackson. And so all it takes is the facade of success. And until the fans are savvy enough to see the ruse, they're just going to keep rolling it out. Because all Grier has to do is even get to the postseason. It's like we're on track again, and that's it. That's all you got to do. And so it's very concerning if you really want the Dolphins to be a serious team.
Yeah.
So,
I could have told you rolling with Robert Jones was probably not going to be a good thing.
no, not using not a good scheme fit. And why did you stick with him when you like even a guy like me is like, dude, this guy doesn't fit. He could fit in certain schemes, but he doesn't fit here. And then Eichenberg is a bellwether. Why did he stick? It was clear signs right away. He was drafted to be a tackle. Flores and staff evaluated him to be guard. He ends up a tackle. Austin Jackson ends up to be a guard. And then he sticks. They made him the backup center. Mm-hmm. Like he never played, and he sucked.
Yeah.
And now you're not keeping him. So all these years you invested in this guy, and then you haven't brought him back. So what were you really building towards? What was the rationale? He was expensive. This year, you could have come for $4 million. You don't think you could have found a guy better than that?
Yeah, easy. And then you go and evaluate the new guys coming out of the draft. You fall in love. I'm over here like Gray Zabel, right? And it's like bam, bam, bam. All of these PowerPoints of like why he could really fit into the guard position and this and that, and then at the end it just says most likely comp Liam Eichenberg, and I'm like, oh
man, that's brutal. I haven't really studied him out. It was a little bit of an enigma. He really tested well. He just does not fit on the pro level. And I would have been okay. Like if he had drafted, I would have been okay. But like how you miss on Creed Humphreys and Cosme, and there were so many guys he missed on. But Grier in his evaluation used a third to go get him.
Yeah.
And then he used a third on Hunter Long.
Yeah.
So there's some serious issues with how he does business. And I do think that there's a lot of his resume that he tries to protect. And so if Grier doesn't have control, then all the coaches are idiots for keeping him in there. And if the coaches aren't idiots, because you saw in 2022, the offensive line coach we had wanted Robert Jones in over Eichenberg, and Smith wanted Eichenberg, and they forced that battle there. And then next year, that line coach was cut or released, and then they brought a new guy in. And so I just think Grier has undue influence. I think he's Teflon. I think he's operated on the assassin principle of there's always somebody to sacrifice, and he'll be back. And so there's just no urgency. And then maybe there's no acumen too. There is some, at some point he drafts some good players, but then you got the Tyndalls and you're at Easies, and it's a mess. But it's not pro. This is not a successful train.
Yeah, when we're talking about people like Chop Robinson, right? And you got the negatives. He needs to work on his technique. Okay, I can deal with that. That's a good development. Grier sees Liam Eichenberg and he goes, doesn't have good knee bend. doesn't have good center of gravity, doesn't have a good anchor, but he's got all these other things, and he could potentially. That's his development.
Yeah.
That's what he thinks. He's like, and I'm like, I don't like doing that. I like evaluating guys, especially offensive linemen. I want to see power. I want to see hand power, and being able to anchor. And I don't want to hear all about like, well, he can recover good. He has like he'll die a slow death and all this stuff. I'm like, dude, that to me is not going to change, especially when they're already like 25.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was clear right away he was terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I
By
mean,
22, it is clear.
yeah.
But he doesn't like to cut guys. But he likes to let the Van Ginkels go, the Wilkins go, and the Hunt go. How do you draft Hunt and not re-sign him in 22?
Yeah.
It's something so weird. It's almost like crazy. It's like almost as if he throws darts at a dartboard. It just doesn't make sense. I can't figure it out.
I know.
I think he's so involved, like in love with certain traits that are additional traits, but physicality, power, he's just not really into that.
Yeah. And that's what I want to see in the trenches, because
yeah.
I know that is what is going to make them. Like, have you been evaluating any of these guys?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
getting there. Like Banks is a guy I've been focusing on. I'm a little hedged on him. I think he's good.
Athlete.
Yeah, but he's great. And when you see him at the second level and in screens, but he's a little bit of a tweener. I'm concerned about his ability to handle power at the guard position. So it's kind of like you can't. I mean, I think Tehran's coming back.
Yeah. I mean, it sounded like he, kind of hinted at that. So
you got Tehran, Paul, and Jackson. And Jackson's the same kind of guy. Big, can't really root well, can't really drive guys out. Some poor technique, and it hasn't gotten better.
Yeah.
Injured. Now he's injured a lot. You locked in with the money. And then so you're going to get a tweener. And I don't think he's bad, because sometimes you look at a player and like, how does their skill set fit with the rest of the offensive line? Who's next to them? You know? So
if he's moving forward, he's a different player than if he has to anchor backwards.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I went into this, I'm totally different on what I think now. I honestly don't think that this draft class is very good for offensive tackle or guard.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think it's that good. I'm not in love with Calvin Banks the way that I was. Will Campbell, I would say, kind of fits all of what I like in a guard.
Patriots are taking him.
Yeah, right. I mean, they could get Ted. They could go a lot of different ways. Depends on how the draft board falls. I mean, if Travis Hunter is there for them, they're taking him. So it's hard to say.
Yeah, I guess it depends if they go free agency because they're like 120 million.
Yeah.
So there's some linemen out there they can pick because they got to protect May. Alf said he was in the tent 5 times for his head.
Oh my God. Well, if we go down, so Will Campbell, all power, real dependable, reliable. Kelvin Banks, super high ceiling, very athletic. I'm not sure if he's going to cut it with being able to withstand these big nose tackles. And then you got like Josh Simmons, who is fantastic right now at tackle, but last year he sucked. He's penalized like I forget how much, but it's unbelievable. And he was at guard, and we're talking about, well, he might translate to guard. And I'm like, man, he went from guard to tackle and actually played better at tackle. It's kind of like the Austin Jacksons, where you just know he's not going to be able to get the center of gravity to get into a guard position. He's going to always
never could play it. Yeah, forget that.
Connerly is another one where they're like, oh, first round, he should be taken to first and blah, blah, blah. He's not going to be a guard. I could already tell. He just does not have, he is way too high pad level. he's going to get wrecked. And that's what you saw. Mike Green took his ass out. You saw that? Did you see that one?
He was playing edge, right? And that's the one where he got totally leveled. That was that big DN who's like 281 or something.
Yeah, Mike Green is a dog, man. He's
I've been liking him. I think it was Ryder McConneville did a thing on him. I think it was good.
Yeah. So you got all of these guys.
What about that Membo guy?
Membo is another one that like maybe he gets like kind of weight. He has a lot of wasted movement in his feet. So maybe you clean that up. But he's kind of like Kelvin Banks in the way that he's pretty athletic, but maybe he's a little bit bigger. I think he's like 5-6 pounds bigger than him. So who knows, man?
What about Booker? I see two interesting trends so far. I see people keep saying Dolphins are going to trade back, and I see Booker like on multiple just mock drafts, but multiple mock drafts that he's going to go in like that teens of the first round. You think that's crazy talk?
That's hopes and dreams, man. Greer doesn't trade back. He always trades forward. He always trades forward, man.
What about your guy Gray Zabel?
I like Gray. I think it really kind of turned my stomach when it showed that he was comped to Liam Eichenberg. But other than that, I don't think he is Liam Eichenberg. I think he's got much better balance than him. You're not going to get the on skates stuff that you see with Liam.
I think he's a center though, because he's 6'6", 305.
That's his best position from what I've seen, is a center.
But it's not going to work with us with Brewer.
No. I don't know. You start getting deep in the draft, and these guys fall off real quick. It's really hard to even here. Let me pull this up. I'm gonna look because I forget exactly.
Yeah, after my vacation, I'm gonna have a better brain.
Let's see.
What about Ratledge?
Yeah, deep. Millam deep. Oh, this is the one. Okay, this is the one that I really like. Cameron Williams, the other Texas guy. That guy is much stronger than Kelvin Banks.
Really? He's a guard or tackle?
He's a guard. He played right tackle, but he's going to be a guard. So I don't know. I just have a little more confidence.
Yeah, he's a big guy. I'm looking at him now. He's 6'5", 335.
Yeah. A little bit later in the draft, it would be a pick. It would be a second round pick if he falls there, or we move up to get him. Jonah, I wish that I could pronounce this guy's name. Savaianiaya.
Oh, forget about it, man. I can't pronounce anybody's name.
The Arizona kid. He's good.
He's big too, man. I see it right here. 6'5", 336.
Yeah. So those are the two guys when I see, and then of course Tyler Booker would be. Those three would be starting guards. I don't think we're going to pick there, though. I don't think we're going to pick them where they're going to go. I think it's going to either be safety or tight end.
That's what you think. You think Warren falls?
Yeah, I do think Warren falls. Yeah. I don't see anybody who would get him over, let's see, a Mason Graham, or a Will Johnson, or, some of these other guys.
I saw someplace they had the Jets taking him there, but I don't think that's the case.
I don't know. No, I think the Jets are probably going to go with, maybe Will Campbell. It's hard to say, though. I can't really.
They've invested a lot on that
projections on this.
They've got Vera Tucker. Last year they got the Fashu whatever guy, and then they got So I don't know. It's going to be very interesting, and maybe even quarterback drops. You think Cam Ward or Sanders is going to drop, or you think they're going to early?
Not there. If he drops past if any of them drop past the first 3 picks, I would see the Raiders definitely taking
Yeah.
one, or somebody is trading. So
I'm not so high on either one. I'm not saying I'm not high on them, but quarterbacks are very fickle, and this looks like a very thin draft.
it's a very thin draft. I am high on Cam Ward. I'm a little biased because I'm a Hurricanes fan.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, I actually do think that he's going to translate pretty well.
What
I'm
about
not high on Shador.
no? He's got some personality issues.
He's a bit of a diva, that's for sure. I'm not high on Jackson Dart. I cannot see it. I mean, we can put on highlights and be like, yeah, this is an awesome quarterback, but
That's not. Yeah, you don't evaluate that way.
no, and what I see is his processing is terrible. So I don't know how these people are so high on Jackson Dart. That's a big thing on Dolphins Twitter right now, right? So
yeah, I definitely think there's going to be a strange little spin on what the Dolphins do. I don't think they're going to go where we think they're going to take. He's never, Greer's like that. I think the money situation. So if you talk about the offensive line, it's so bizarre because you have no depth. I don't hear about Keon Smith. That's crazy talk for me. You got no starting guards. Jackson is not a guy for you, and you invested heavily into him. Tehran's got the injury history. You're invested heavily. You can't get the money till post-June. And then you got Paul. Paul should be starting. It's a second-round pick. So what do you do there? Paul can't play inside. Tehran can't play inside. I'm sure he could, but it's going to grind him up very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Jackson can't play inside. I think, a lot of people want to go to a more physical offensive line. I was talking to one guy, and outside zone is very – if you're not a play or a portion of your play calls, but I mean heavy outside zone, it's hard. You got big guys. The hardest thing to find from big guys is their fleet of foot. They're nimble and they got speed. But then if you get the guys that are nimble, fleet of foot, and got speed, and then you want to have power that you can occasionally dig people out and handle guys, so you got a cutback. We don't have any cutback. Mm-hmm. So this is a very, very limited menu offense with players that don't fit inside zone, or a portion of your plays is inside zone. So you've got to fill all these holes and then somehow jive it with the rest of the parts, because Brewer can't dig anybody out. So you've got to get very big guys next to him, but also big guys that are fleet of foot. Mm-hmm. And so it's going to be very hard to pull this thing together. I don't know how they're going to do it. It's going to take.
You think he changes? He goes along the lines of the 49ers, how they changed?
Yeah, but remember, they got Trent Williams.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if Trent Williams is better than Tehran and more often healthy, Tehran, I think, is sort of borderline Hall of Fame, sort of. Mm-hmm. Injury thing might pull him out. But Trent Williams is maybe the top 5 of all time. And, everything changes when you have a guy like that. And they, when they really were doing good, they had Mack at center. They had the guy the Raiders picked up at right tackle. And you can see this year, they kind of dial it down. The kid they picked up in the 3rd round, Punu, was a very good find. Mm-hmm. But Williams was out a little bit. The left guard was out. And you could see the whole thing get sucked down. So I like what they do. I like the balance of their attack. Because they run gap, inside zone, outside zone, pitch it. I mean, they do all kinds of stuff. Mm-hmm. And you could even see in the Super Bowl, they were running inside with a little bit of outside stuff, and they had KC on the skates. And then they went to the second half. They got all finesse, went outside. It kept getting shut down. this league has got it. You've got to be able to run inside.
Mhm.
You don't have to be a dominator. I mean, but you've got to look at the Eagles. They weren't generating many yards, but Barkley and that offensive line had KC in 7 and 8 in the boxes, and the leverage was tied down. And they were still picking up the blitz, giving Hurts time to throw, but that opened up the outside and the deep.
Yeah.
So you've got to affect that interior. So
The problem with the Eagles is it takes 5 years to build the trenches like that, man.
Oh, yeah.
You
I mean,
know,
we got so many skills. We don't need to have that, but we don't have much. It's just such a, close your eye. I mean, it's so incongruent. I mean, so, Jackson or Tehran could go down at any moment.
Yeah.
And then what else do you get? And you don't have a lot of money. We're broke.
Yeah. Well, you can move some stuff.
What do you think you can move?
Well, you can restructure a couple of guys.
Who?
Maybe Tua, maybe Ramsey.
Yeah, but that means locking. That's bad. That's bad protocol if you're trying to build right.
Yeah.
Because Tua, he's got all these injuries, and you're locking money down the road. Ramsey's an old man already. He's like 31. I mean, yeah, he's a stud, but you redid it last year. You can't lock Tehran in. Do you want to lock Hill in? Chubb, you going to keep Chubb?
No, I think that Tyreek Hill and Nick and Bradley Chubb are probably gone, but they have to be gone after June 1st.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can't do free agency.
Yeah, so initial free agency is going to be very tough for us. The only thing that we have going for us, and this is a big gamble, is the fact that there are 30 plus serviceable guards out there. I mean, not even serviceable, much better than what we have.
Oh, yeah. So you think maybe grab just one?
I hope they grab two, a swing tackle and a backup, honestly. I don't know what they do. I think that they probably have to wait. But it's supply and demand, and they know
a lot of people
that.
want them. A lot of people want them.
A lot of
people.
So
who are you hoping we get?
I wrote these guys' names down. I can't remember them right now.
There's a lot of top tier guys that are out there.
Yeah, I have.
We can't afford those.
I put a tweet out with all of them, but I just briefly went through the PFFs, which isn't the end all be all or anything. But I went through the PFFs and graded put down everybody who was graded higher than a 59 on both sides. And so that excluded some guys that were, 73 graded on pass and then, 58 on run or something like that. So there were other guys that I saw that I just didn't even put down. But anybody who made it 60 or above, I put down, and there was like 33.
Wow.
So
well, if you go with that mindset, I gotta look. I'm not saying I agree, but I probably do. You got all this pool of offensive linemen in free agency, and you've got at least a very good opportunity in the draft. If this offensive line doesn't get itself put together, then I don't know what to say.
Yeah. Do you feel that we have to target offensive line early in the draft?
No. If the right guy falls to 13, somehow Will Campbell or something, but he's not going to fit what we do. My hope, if I had the magic wand, I'd hope we trade back and grab Grant. I like Grant a ton.
Kenneth Grant, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's a nose tackle, so.
Yeah. But for me, the trenches on both sides are critical. Sealer's 30. He doesn't work well in the pit or as well, and it grinds him up. He needs to be out in that 3 technique. And I like him. I also do like that kid you were talking about, the one that's just level to do the 281 edge guy. I'm fine. I think this is a rebuild. I wish anybody else but Greer was handling it. But for me, this is a rebuild. So you've got to get the best play you can on either side of the trenches. And so I would say if it was me, I'm trading back, grabbing Grant, finding my guard in round 2 and round 3, maybe, or 4. And then, I don't know about a quarterback. I don't know if I'm not really I don't know the quarterback situation, but I would try to I'm hoping to come out with a tight end, a good blocking tight end, pass catching tight end.
Yeah.
A big DI interior to soak up double tackles, to take like the Ravens, Jones or Pierce role. Obviously, probably not going to be that level, but hopefully. And then find 2 offensive linemen. I would get a veteran, a quality veteran, not a great veteran, a quality veteran to play that right guard spot, and find a very good option at left guard with another guy that I trust to develop, whether that's tackle or guard, and then maybe grab one more late, you know what I mean? Like something like that. Because if you look at all the best teams, they find guys between the 2nd and the 6th round, usually like 3rd and the 6th round, or even 7th round, as their offensive linemen, either as quality depth or starters. And that's what we got to do. Build his trenches. We're not winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So get ready to move off guys like Chubb and Hill and whoever else. You can't put it all together this year, I don't think.
Yeah, I think it'd be very difficult too. I do think, however, where we're falling in the draft, I think the most impactful player is going to be Tyler Warren. But that's immediate impact. That's not, building.
I'm fine with that, though. I'd be fine with that. I wouldn't be, as long as he comes out to be a top end player.
I think he will. But, you have the offensive line. Yes, they're blocking terrible. So are the tight ends. And, we have 3 guys that can't block, unfortunately. And Jonnu Smith is fantastic as a receiver, big slot almost.
Yep.
And he's more physical, but he can get into the screen game and all that, but he can't block. And then Durham Smythe and Julian Hill are terrible. And when I look at the free agency, and we already know that we have a problem with what we're going to be spending in free agency, there is no tight ends. There are no tight ends. So I'm like, okay, if you get Tyler Warren here, and then maybe you move up from 48 and you get Derek Harmon or somebody like that. I mean, I'm really high on Derek Harmon. What a disruptive guy.
I'm going to check him out.
Defensive tackle. I mean, disruptive, batting balls, always in your business. I love that. And just relentless. Or, you end up getting a solid trench in the very beginning, or maybe a safety, Malachi Starks or somebody like that, that's like too good talent. The talent's too good to pass up. And then you wait for 48, or you move up wherever that range is, and you go for Elijah Arroyo, which I really like. I mean,
what position does he play?
Tight end.
Okay, I don't think you need to grab the tight end in the 1st round.
You don't have to, but if it's Tyler Warren,
it
might be.
Do you think he's as good as Bowers?
I think that's really hard. Brock Bowers is probably immediately the best tight end in the NFL.
Yeah.
I think he's more like Trey McBride, and I would take Trey McBride.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. With a little more wiggle too. I mean, Trey McBride kind of just runs people over.
He looks like a real athlete. Warren looks like a real athlete.
He's an athlete for sure, but he can also block too. But then if you miss on that tight end, now who do you have? You have guys like Mason Taylor, Elijah Arroyo, Terrence Ferguson. I really like. He can block like a crazy person, man. For Oregon, I don't know if you've seen any Oregon games this past year.
There's one guy. Is he the best blocker in a draft?
No.
There's one guy Ryder was talking about, and he said this guy is just like a blocking machine.
Oh, I missed that one. I don't know.
I can't remember. It was good. There's
guys that are deep that are really, really good at blocking, like Jalen Conyers.
I would definitely pick. Yeah, maybe that's who it is. That's what I would do. I would pick, even if you get Tyler Warren at 13, at that 3rd day, if there's a guy who can really block, you bring him in too. Because it's an extension of the blocking unit, and it sets the linebacker leverage at tight end. So I'm fine with Warren. He was the first guy I wanted.
Yeah. So my goal going in the draft would be 2 tight ends, just like how you said it. We need safeties. And if we don't want to pay really high for safety in free agency, or, we're not going to make Holland walk and we're going to pay him and all that. So I don't know.
Let Holland walk. Let Holland walk.
Yeah, I'm down for letting Holland walk, unfortunately.
100%.
And I've seen him on Twitter, for the past year. And I'm like, dude, there's something wrong with his mental right now.
Really?
Yeah. Just the way that he gets so, I don't know, agitated so easily. I'm like, there's something not going on with him that's good, And lo and behold, this year he had a freaking terrible year. So who knows, man? Maybe he's just in his head right now. And, next year it's going to change, but I'm not willing to pay what he wants.
No. He was trying to get the money. He was like going for interceptions, throwing the defense out of whack, giving up touchdowns. He was definitely reaching, and he's, had his injuries and stuff. So yeah, I'm totally not with him.
Yeah, but there's not going to be a savior Drake May or Drake May, Marcus May or Deshaun Elliott or any of those guys. That's not happening this year with the free agency unless somebody gets cut, and it's strange. But, safety is going to be a tough one. So I think we have to address it in the draft.
Just think about that, though. 2 safeties. You need linebacker help. You need DI help.
Yeah.
All right, we'll say cornerbacks. Okay. You need 2 guards. You need depth at guard. You need a tight end or 2, and you need a backup quarterback. That's a big amount you need.
It's a lot to ask.
Huge.
Yeah. And, the thing is, we don't know how this is going to fall. The board is always different. So I could do 1,000 mock drafts a day and still not be able to tell you exactly where somebody's going to go. And it's always because of somebody like Chris Greer taking Derek Harmon at 13 or something like that.
Oh, man. What a world we're in, brother. What a world we're in.
I know.
Well, anyway, we're at 47 minutes, so I appreciate you coming by. Is there anything else you want to finish off with? Any last idea we didn't hit on? I know there's a bunch, but any critical ones we missed?
I don't think so. I mean, to me, exactly what you just said. We have so much that we have to get, and we put ourselves in a position to have to do it in the draft outside of offensive line. And if we could somehow manipulate our cap to where we could go heavy, which I have seen some things that people have said that I can see Chris Greer actually doing, and then taking a lot of money and putting it towards the free agency. But I'm not. That's a big risk. It is a big risk. You want to play that gamble? I don't know.
But if he's actually in a final year, you never know.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So Will Howard, go after Will Howard, go after a tight end, get a nice DT, get some guys that are going to, build your trenches up, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, we just got to be hopeful. Hopefully it plays out that he's taking his limitless pill, Chris Greer, and he becomes a genius this offseason.
We can hope. Hey, if it's got to be meth, it's got to be meth, man.
We'll do whatever it takes, man, whatever it takes. Yeah. Well, anyway, brother, I thank you for stopping by, Zach. Give us the whole deal about where we can find you.
Yeah. Well, I'm that Dolphins Realtor on Twitter. And also, if you're interested in buying or selling a home, I'm on buyersforhomes.com. That's my brokerage, and we'd be happy to help you out.
If I had enough money, I'd go to you, brother. 100%.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate it.
Not enough cheddar for that one, though. So anyway, guys, appreciate everything. Zach and Curtis saying, be well, go Fins. Curtis and Zach out. Start building your own online sports book today by getting signed up with aceperhead.com service that'll allow you to book action on sports from all around the world.